We're excited to go to Auburn. We had a good bye week. I feel like we're healthy as we can be going into this game, and we know they have a lot of good players. They're very talented, but we're looking forward to go and play.
Coach, what was your weekend like? Did you take a step back from football? You watch football? What did you do this weekend?
Well, I watched all day. Obviously, I went to some high school games on Friday night and some schools on Friday here in the state. And I got down to Hot Springs about 11 or so, 11:15 something, Friday evening after the games, and went out on the lake a little bit and watched games all day and enjoyed it. And then our staff got together at 5 yesterday and worked from 5 to about 10.
How's the secondary looking? You mentioned you feel like you're going to be healthy, but just individually, Slusher and all those guys.
I think we're going to look at Slusher today in Indy and then see how well he can progress or how much better he is. We feel like he's going to be fine, and then the rest, Kyrie will be back, and hopefully we can get Malik back no later than tomorrow, Chavis, and but I think, and hopefully Brenny's ankle that's been bothering him for 5 or 6 weeks now, hopefully it's healed. We'll know a little bit more about that. Marcus Henderson would be one guy that probably won't be ready early in the week. Hopefully later. He had a high ankle sprain, getting Crawford back today. So Bumper feels better, and Drew Sanders feels better. So I think we did the right thing. We'll obviously wait to see on Saturday to see if it is the right call or not, but we feel like it is.
And
Jaden's will be ready to practice today as well.
My question to you is about offensive balance. You putting up some pretty good numbers, running and passing, decent balance. Just what's your self-evaluation show at this stage of the year?
Well, I think we opened up the game plan a little bit more last week, early downs. I think that's who we are. We can throw and catch, especially when we're unpredictable about what we're doing on early downs. And I think that helped us against BYU. And certainly, I believe you have to run the ball to have success. And a lot of teams are throwing it and having success. I don't mean that, but for the way we're built, I think we have to run the ball to have success, and then use the things off of that. But I like where we're at offensively. Obviously last week we were big on third down. That helped us. As long as we continue to do that and hold on to the football, I think we'll like how our offense looks. I do right now.
Beyond the obvious of getting the guys back healthy, that they're better players, but how much does that impact your defense? What you're able to do? Like, are you be able to go more multiple having those guys back healthy in the back end, and maybe bring more pressure up front, or what does that look like?
Well, obviously, getting who might be a 1 on your team, who you think is your better players back, helps you. Not only just physically out on the field, but it helps you as a play caller because you've seen them do it before. You trust them a little bit more with guys you've seen than the hope of. I hope we do it well. So each game's a lot about matchups and how do you match up. It's hard not to look at scores, but scores really don't matter about how some team did against another team. It's about the matchup. Do you match up well with whomever they have? So I think the first thing with Auburn, you've got to be able to stop their running game. Obviously, they ran for over 300 yards last week. And then how do you match up against their receivers and things of that nature? So we're going to have to give them several looks, and they've got a really talented quarterback, young but very, very talented. And so we're going to have to mix up the looks for him pre-snap and and see if we can't do a good job at that.
Just a couple other quick injury things. You mentioned Hazelwood was kind of banged up. Was this week off good for him? It was his shoulder, right?
It was his shoulder, and I think it'll be a nagging thing with him probably throughout the year. However, I think he feels a lot better. But we'll probably still have him in the green at practice.
And then same kind of thing with KJ. You said his shoulder was just kind of sore and that the week off would do him good. Just what did you guys do with him this off week, and how's that?
Yeah, we just didn't. He didn't throw the football last week. He actually, I can't remember the game. I'm wanting to say it might have been going into A&M on a Thursday. Threw a ball and didn't finish practice, and it's been nagging him a little bit, and so we decided not to throw him last week. I anticipate him being healthy, ready to go.
Sam, you mentioned their quarterback, Robbie Ashford, transferred from Oregon. It hadn't really played until this year. Specifically, what are you seeing from him? And then Bigsby's obviously been there a long time. What do you think of him?
Well, Robbie's their second leading rusher, so some of those are designed runs, which he's very good at, and then obviously the other part of getting outside the pocket and running, which we're very concerned about that. But he's got a strong arm, but he's most dangerous when you have the receivers covered downfield and he takes off. I mean, he's really dangerous doing that. Bigsby, I think probably last week he showed who he really is, and they opened up against Ole Miss a lot of holes for him, and he made a lot of good runs out of that. But I've always liked Bigsby. I think he's a really, really good player and breaks a lot of tackles, and that's the emphasis this week is, trying to get him down before he gets started. Because if he can get 3 or 4 yards on his own, or they can get him 3 or 4 yards, he's hard to bring down. And so we need to get him close to the line of scrimmage as possible.
And, they've lost 3 in a row, but like you said, they're talented. There's really a lot of noise down at Auburn about, Brian Harsin. Just what are you expecting from them?
I think they're playing really hard. It's Auburn. We haven't beat them, so since I've been here, we're 0-2 against them, but I think they're playing hard. And for them to come back after being down 21-0 the last game against Ole Miss and come back and make that a close, good football game on the road, I think it says a lot about their coaching staff and the kids still believing in them and playing extremely hard.
Last week I saw a tweet from the Joe Moore Award that I guess it recognizes offensive line play, and in their tweet it says, I guess it singled out Bo, and it says that he has some junk to him. I'm curious if you have any idea what they're kind of talking about there in just this season.
Well, he's got a little nastiness in him. He likes to play the game, likes to finish blocks. Bo's extremely smart and strong, and I think he probably is the most improved offensive lineman we have this year. Played really well. I think he's playing with a lot of confidence, but that would mean to me that he finishes blocks well and has the physicality to do that. And I've been really pleased with him this year. He's a really good center as well. We just, because of Ricky, we hadn't had a chance to put him in there, but I think he's an NFL player, and I think he will be, and maybe in the future we'll be able to look at him at center some as well.
Rocket's on pace to have one of the best rushing seasons at Arkansas. Do you like the pace he's on? Is the amount of hits he's taken? Would you like to filter the other guys in a little more the rest of the way? How does that work out?
Well, I like where he's at. I mean, I think he's 124 a game or something like that average. Ball security has to improve there. Again, not just necessarily ones on the ground, but the way we're carrying the ball. I think we've got to be a little smarter there. But he's been a better back all year than he was last year just because he's understanding it. He hadn't played that position very long. But Rocket is a competitor, a guy that's mature for his age, very much so, and I think he can handle the load that he's getting right now. Obviously, we have 4 backs that we think are pretty good players, and but it's his ball. As long as he's not tired, we're going to give him the ball.
And then I had another question about something.
You know, it happens to me when y'all ask me 3 or 4 questions at once. I'm like, what was the other 2? I'm glad it happened to you, by the way.
Well, now I've forgotten it. I'll come back.
You'll remember it.
Coach, obviously you guys had some disadvantages of not having KJ last time you went on the road. Do you like the way that you did everything, just obviously not having your quarterback, or you change anything up this time?
Well, we're going to change practice up just like we did when we went to BYU. We're going to start fast with good on good and things of that nature. It worked, so we're going to keep it that way. But KJ is the heart and soul of our team, you know, and so having him will help us tremendously. And I think we're ready to try to make a run. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Of course, you got to win the next one to get on a run, but you know, especially late October, early November, it's a lot about the vibe of the team. It's a lot about where you're at injury-wise, what you really believe you can do, what you, probably more importantly, what you want to do, things of that nature. I like where our team is. I think this is a big test for us, and obviously on the road at a very traditionally rich program, and have a lot of good players. And so, but I'm excited where we are, and KJ's a big part of that.
I asked you about the 5 Bs you did last year. Obviously, you don't want to force anything, so I don't know if you came up with anything particular.
No, I had some stuff, and I ran it by Dalton and KJ, and they both bid on it pretty hard, and then I ran it by Poole, and he thought it was cheesy, so we pretty much, we're not doing it right now. Maybe if we can get a win, maybe we'll do something else, but I had something I was interested in, and 2 out of 3 said okay, but the bump said it was too cheesy, so I just dropped it.
Have 100%. Okay. Any silver linings with the secondary stuff, with having guys missing? You know, Keywan Parker or Trent Gordon, any of those guys maybe catch your eye or?
I think what Keywan has. I thought Keywan played a pretty good game, you know, against BYU. I think there's always silver lining if you have guys that you don't really know about that come in and play pretty well, you know. It obviously makes your depth better sometimes, and it gets them their mind a little more positive about what they can do, and then they'll play better. They might be better on special teams, things of that nature. So to be where we're at and to be relatively healthy with an opportunity in these next few games, I think it did help us, and I think it will help us as we continue to move on through these next 5.
Yes. No.
Coach, obviously with the bye week, it's a chance for you guys to rest physically, but do you also feel like it was maybe also as important to kind of recharge the batteries mentally, especially, you know, once you get into SEC play, it's kind of a grinding schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I think rest a lot of times puts things in perspective. You know, you're not running. You're looking at, okay, here's where we are. This is what we've done. This is where we can get to. We tried not to rest them mentally as far as prep, mental prep, film, walks, things of that nature for Auburn. But obviously, when your body slows down, a lot of times your mind does too. And so hopefully we've got the perfect remedy for the guys to kind of go down a little bit, relax a little bit, and then because we know we have a hard 5-game stretch coming up.
And then your team went on a run in the second half of last season. Is that an experience you feel like you can draw on this season? What do you draw from that?
Yeah, we're trying to do a lot of things similar to what we did last year in practice and the bye week, except last year we went ahead and practiced on Thursday physically. But I think anytime you have the same players on your team that did it, fairly well last year, and we didn't win them all. I think we won 4 out of the last 5. But I think that always helps and helps the belief of, coach just isn't up there blowing smoke. We've done it before, and we'd have opportunity to do it again, and we need to, honestly.
Sam, I got a 6-parter. No, I'm just kidding. Well, asking about Auburn's defense, I guess, Papo, he's been there forever. He leads them in tackles, and Derek Hall's got several sacks. What do you think about their defense, maybe those couple guys in particular?
Hall's really good. Well, so is Papo, but Hall's really good. He's a problem. I think he has maybe 4 sacks, but it's not just the sacks. He's a good run defender. He can chase you down on quarterback reads. He can give you the read and chase you down. He can affect throws, affect where KJ will be able to set up in the pocket. I think he's really, really good and is playing extremely well. Papo's a guy that just gets you on the ground. He can run, played a lot of ball for him, but he can run and very, very smart player. Seems to be in position all the time. I like Wooden too, 25. I think he's a really good player. He's a really good pass rusher. I like them all, but those guys really stick out. I like their linebacker core. They seem to be good tacklers. And obviously you turn on tape and it's the first guy making the tackle, and a lot of times that's the case with Auburn. I like them. I like their defense.
Coach, looked like with Bumper's nagging injury, Poopall got to play a little bit more snaps. Yeah. What did you think of him?
Yeah, I think he'll just continue to get better. He's very talented. He's physical, can run. His if he had problems, they would be just eye violations or some type of mental bust. But those are becoming fewer and fewer, which they will as a young kid gets to play more. I think he's really talented. I think he's going to be a really good linebacker for us because he's very, very physical, and I think that's helped us. We're putting him in 3rd down right now because bump situation a little bit. So it's certainly going to help us in the future and has helped us recently.
And then a couple guys on the D-line, Landon Jackson and Cam Ball. Just curious what you've thought of them through the first 7 games. I'm
really excited about Cam. I think he's made some big strides. Landon as well. I'd like for Landon to gain some more weight. He's lost quite a bit of weight since he's been here, and we need him to. We've already went with the nutritionist, all that, trying to get that weight back on him because I think he's a little too light. He's around 240 right now. I think he's light, but he plays extremely hard and has done a nice job. Cam, I think Cam's moved pretty fast, in what he's been able to do from the first year to now. I really like where he's at.
On Matt Landers for a sec, not to say that he was lacking for confidence going into the BYU game. Do you feel like that the game that he had maybe reinvigorated him a little bit, or you think that might carry over?
I think so, but I think you could almost feel the weight lifted off of his shoulders when he caught a touchdown pass, because he hadn't caught a touchdown this year. And I think when he did that, I think that was a big, big deal for him. And then to catch 3 of them, and none of them were miraculous. He got by a guy, and that was a long one of about 40-some yards, I think. And the other 2, he was wide open in the end zone and caught it. But yes, I think it was a much-needed, important for him to be able to do that because he's got to be good here in this run we're trying to make.
Trey Knox had a big game for you at BYU.
Yeah.
How would you assess his first 7 games, and do you think he can maybe get involved in the passing game a little bit more down the stretch?
Well, I was pleased. He made some key catches for us too against BYU, and certainly I think it goes a little bit with opening up the offense on first and second down. I think he will become more of a main target in that. He'll continue to work and be consistent in his blocking. But I think he's had a really good year. I think it was great for him to move from wide out to tight end. I think it's a really good move for him, and I think he'll have an opportunity to play in the NFL.
I was going to ask you about one of your freshmen, Isaiah Satania. I think he maybe got on the field for a special team snap.
Yeah.
How is he coming along, and could he maybe factor in at all in the offense down the stretch?
Well, he might. You know, he's had a high ankle, and so that hurt him for a while, maybe now 4.5, 5 weeks. You know, we talked about him today as well, about, you know, he's played in one. What are we going to do with him? My philosophy has always been, if you get bowl eligible, you'd like anybody that you might think about redshirting or not. And I'm not saying we are, but if that's the case, you kind of want to leave one game open. So when they're practicing that at length, that they actually feel like they're going to play. I think it helps them with practices and helps them get better in those things. So he's at one right now. We're aware of it. Obviously, we have not spoke with him about it yet. And a lot of times we don't unless a guy comes in like a Tyrus Washington and says, you know, I've played in 4 games. You know, I'd like to redshirt if at all possible. We haven't talked with Isaiah about that, but as of right now, it would be nice to have him 4 more years after this because he's so valuable. He can be valuable on special teams as well, and I think he'll be a really good slot receiver for us. So the injury certainly hurt him. At one point he was in the 2 deep, you know, and then the ankle bit him pretty hard.
I got it now. Practices last week, you did walks, no helmets. Does it get more physical this week, or how do you have to balance it? Because, you know,
we didn't do anything physically last week.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go shoulder pads today, the entire day. We're going shells, and that's been a big emphasis for us and as a coaching staff that we got to go today. It's got to be. We have to have a lot of energy. We have to be involved big time in this practice as coaches. So we can, and I don't think it'll be a problem, to be honest with you, but obviously we're conscious. You asked a question, so you're concerned about it as well, and we are too. But we, you know, if you start on a Monday and get it revved up, and that has a lot to do with team meetings and position meetings and all those things. But we're aware of that. We are concerned about it. But most of the time, our kids have done whatever we've asked them to do, and I think they'll be excited. You know, it's Auburn. I think they'll be excited to have a good week of practice.
I'm looking at third down conversions. You're 17th in the country, 49%. Just how does that factor into what you've done this year?
Yeah, well, it certainly has helped. We'd like to be higher than that. Of course, last week was certainly 12 out of 15, and then, of course, the one down on the goal line was a different situation. But if we can continue to stay on the field, you know, we have to lean on our offense. I mean, that's what we have to do right now. A lot of teams lean on one side or the other. But our offense needs to stay out there on the field and score points for us. And as long as they're converting those third downs, it's big for us.
Well, Landon's weight loss, what do you attribute that to? Is it injury that he had, or?
No, you know, I asked him about it, and he said he's eating and all that kind of stuff. And but we do have, it was concerning to me, and so I got him with Julia, you know, to make sure that he's eating whatever he needs to eat to make sure that he can gain some weight, because I think he wanted to at first take a little pressure off that knee and make it feel better and all and move a little better, but I think he's probably a 265, 270-pound guy that he needs to be for what we're asking him to do.
Zach hit 260. I remember, I think maybe the year before, I felt like he hit that weight and dropped a lot also. How is his weight holding up?
I think he's about 255 right now. He's holding pretty steady. I imagine when he quits playing, he'll go back to 220. You know, whatever he has to maintain it. Some guys do, and some guys it's easy for them to gain weight. But he's holding in there pretty good. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, he's not having to play every single snap and all those things.
Is there any other significant weight swings one way or another on the roster?
No, not really right off the top of my head. I can't really think of anybody that we've talked about lately that need to gain or lose.
You mentioned talking to Jalen Catalon last week. What will his role be? Like, will he be at practices? Will he watch film with the guys? How will he factor back in?
Well, that was kind of still left open-ended. He, you know, I don't know that he's ready to come back yet. You'll have to ask him. But so, I mean, I think you probably, if he wants to talk to you about that, I think he'll talk to you about that.
Right. Two games I thought were particularly interesting last week. BYU at Liberty game, because you got Liberty coming up, and then LSU Ole Miss. Did you happen to look at both of those games, and any thoughts about what you saw?
Yeah, I watched both of them, and well, no, I didn't. I watched Ole Miss game. You know, again, it goes back to a little bit about the season and where you're at and where your team is mentally and where all, you know, BYU, Liberty must have played a heck of a game. I haven't watched it yet, but you could feel BYU reeling a little bit when we went out there. Yeah, but I think Liberty's got a really good football team. Obviously, they've lost one game to Wake Forest by a point, so they've obviously got a really good team. And the LSU Ole Miss game, it just got out of hand. You know, LSU was very, very, very physical, and probably had their best offensive outing. You know, at least against a top team. And LSU's talented, you know, got a lot of good players, and made plays. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.